Hello, and welcome back, everybody, at another Friday, and the least of the year. Starting off with episode 11, nonetheless. So, 11 times we have now done that, and it seems that all of you also going to give this a. I kick this off. I see now gets for any of you guys out there, if you haven't noticed or found out yet, I got a new webcam. You guys got to let me know. Is it looking good? Am I looking terrible? I know my last webcam had a little bit of a hard time with things, and it was going in and going out like crazy. There is some trouble with the sound. What is the trouble with the sound? Am I clicking or always trouble? If anybody knows my stream, I always have. Go, give me a sec. Why I have you guys out there. Oh. Test. Can you hear me? Can you? Oh, now I don't have audio out on the headset. Oh, that would explain. How about now? Better? Better? Worse? Hear me? Cutting in and out. Oh, we had this problem. Little unplug and replug. What does that sound like to you? Are we better? Worse? There we go. Hey, look at that. And every week we somehow manage to screw something up. And for those of you that don't know, we do live streams twice a week. So if you want to see me screw it up twice each and every week, go ahead. Feel free to subscribe to our channel. Also, I see a lot of you guys out there, Dylan, Matt, Bogdan, Deep Thinker. Guys, thank you for joining us once again. Does anybody have anything they want to kick this off with? I'm going to open this up for you all. This is your guys' time to go ahead and dump all of your problems on me. Now, it's been about 2 weeks since I think we've done one of these. And for those of you that didn't see my post, I do know when my wife's birthday is. I just did not realize that it fell on the exact Friday to which we were actually going to do a free support Friday last week, and I had to call it off. So if anybody has anything for me to kick things off, feel free to go ahead and post it down below. Let us know any problems you're having, anything in particular you want to see. I can give you guys a shout out. We did have multiple people buy me lovely beers this week. Maybe I could put it in front of me. Of course, there's my green screen filter is picking up my can, but thank you guys for the beers and the support for this channel. If you guys didn't know, you could support this channel. 1, likes, subscribes, comments down below. Always very good for us out here to help boost this channel. But you could also buy us a beer, or you could actually purchase your software and support from us here at jitcadcam. I don't see anything coming in. You guys got nothing this week? Everybody's been off for 2 weeks. Anybody get a 3D printer or a CNC router or something for Christmas? Give you guys some time in the chat to go ahead and populate. Maybe I should make sure that all of my posts went out so people know that we're live right now. At least we got the mic worked out so far, right? Could be worse. Anybody? You guys got anything? You're going to send me a file in a minute. You always got something. I'm super excited. Oh, hey, look at that. Learn It in the chat. If you guys didn't know, Learn It is one of our partners. He's actually up in Canada, and he does tons of amazing content. I was shocked the other day. I can't remember how many views and how many hours, but he posted, it was almost a month ago now, but he is absolutely killing it. Great content aimed at the design side. He also does some cam work himself. Learn It. If you got any questions out there, feel free to put them in chat. I know you message me from time to time with questions. I should probably, let's get the support channel pulled up. If you guys didn't know, we also have Discord now. If you guys have anything that you want to put, we have a Discord channel you can join so that you don't have to keep downloading and installing more apps. You can always send us stuff to the support ticket down below as well. So let's get everything pulled up on my end. Oh, he's thinking about something good. I don't know why I always get the good stuff. I appreciate it, guys. Appreciate all you guys here checking this out also. You know what? We could take a look. Did anything come out in a new update? Let's go ahead and check the update board. Go ahead and swap my cameras around here. There we go. What's new? Still from November. I did see something new that I didn't experience and I haven't had a chance to play with, but it might be quite a good time. Let's see here. Manufacturing. So there is the new leads. Oh, whoa, wrong way here. Let's go back down. There is the new leads and linking modification in the manufacturing extension. Maybe we'll have to take a look at that today and see what's going on with it. Now there is machine avoid surface support. Oh, wow. What is going on with this thing? I don't know why it keeps jumping up on me. Avoid horizontal and swerve strategies. Okay, so we added some more avoid touch or machine avoid surface strategies. Fourth axis machining for 3D milling finish strategies. Okay. There's a clearance plane. I would have to see that. I wonder how that's going to play out. Flat machining's got improvements. Reduce whisper cuts and 3D adaptive minor step downs. That might be interesting to see also. Maybe we could see if that'll play around with that a little bit. Contact normal. Probe geometry fitting. Oh. Alternative probing method. Allowing you to probe angled faces, holes, and bosses that you would not be able to measure with standard probing cycles. Maybe we'll start with that. Curious to see. Improved silhouette for mesh boundaries for anybody out there doing mesh stuff. I see a question. Using the Fusion tool library during CAM, is there an easy way to assign tool numbers? Not auto-assign, since some of the tools have dedicated tool numbers in my machine. Awesome question, Deep Thinker, for sure. We could take a look at that. Let's go ahead and jump back over to Fusion here. So I don't have any parts in here yet. Let's do this. Let's pull up an old part. I think we have a part laying around here somewhere. You know what? Let's go back to the ever trusty milling parts. I feel much more comfortable in milling, even though I do turn mill. Once you get into turn mill, it seems way worse in my opinion. And I've ran 5-axis mills, which is funny. Here we go. Now, question is numbering your tools when you're actually creating your tool path. So let's do a setup here real quick and throw a couple of tools at this. As always, we got to wait a moment. First time I've started up Fusion's setup side of things. So let's give this some tool paths. And we're going to go with the good old standard. So there's a couple of things I'll point out before I jump into this too far, Deep Thinker. And what that is one is I built out a shop crib. And the shop crib is the way that I tell most people to go at the end of the day. Is you can have, of course, libraries of your machines, or you could have, again, a shop crib folder. Now, I would recommend that you do the shop crib folder and then put a nether shop crib inside of it. Again, to me, it's easier to go and reference everything quickly based on those selections, of course. But as you can see right now, if I go to my VF2, my face mill is in pocket 10. So based on that information, it makes it very easy for me to go out and grab these tools. So as you can see here, is I was very easily to go in and face off this part. If I go back in, let's hit this with an adaptive clearing now. I am just going to recycle the good old 1/2-inch end mill. And then as you guys are going to see, this is going to wrap up this part pretty quick. Let's say we're going to do, I'm going to do this the wrong way, just so you guys can see, is 3D contour. Again, we're going to grab another tool. Let's say it's that 1/2-inch ball, right? So as you're seeing here is I've now used multiple different tools with multiple different tool numbers. And his question was about how do I renumber these tools, right? So if I go to my tool library, up here at the top left, what you'll see is I'm currently working inside that enclosure file, and I have my setup where those tools reside. And now he was saying is there is the ability to go through and auto number your tools, of course. And with the auto numbering, as you can see, it's going to tell you what it's changing from and what it's changing to, just like you've ever used the parameter settings as well. If I wanted to go up by 2s, or if I want to go up by 10 in this case, as you'll see, it's automatically telling you how to renumber itself, but it is using kind of that continuous, like one after another change. So it is a little bit more manual if you wanted to change a tool number. Of course, you have to come in, you have to right click, edit that specific tool. And the good news is a few weeks ago, we kind of talked about this with Autodesk here, is I can change the tool number here, right? So let's say we make this 19 now, right? Now, I've only changed this inside of this specific part file, right? Because there is no linking between my tool, pulling it from my cloud library, and now the changes I've made at the part level. So this was something that I think Autodesk did see. I don't know what they're going to do with that information, guys. But as you're seeing is I have to manually come in and I'm changing this in my library. And the reason why I'm changing it in my library is because I would need to change this not only here, but also here at my VF2 machine. Or if I want to always keep track of everything, I can actually copy that tool, go to the VF2 now and paste it back in so that I have now the latest and greatest version of that tool. Again, I would have to go in and delete any other tools. This is why I prefer the idea of the shop crib method or building a machine library. I would say you could take this one step further if you wanted to, is let's say I'm going to do now the VF2, and let's say this is extra tool, right? Now, what that allows me to do is have a library for specific tools and specific pockets that never change, and then any in addition to tool, right? So as you guys saw, let's say, for example, I'm not going to put tool 19 in here. We're going to go ahead and delete tool 19 out of here. But in that VF2 extra folder, I, of course, could paste in that now tool 19. Now, when I'm done running this part, I still have my standard tools separated from my extra tools. Again, another way you could go about editing your tools out there, guys, is you could actually go to that operation, right-click, edit tool. Again, jumping over to post-processor. Let's just go ahead and bump this up to 29 now. What that's going to do is, of course, when we go into our tool library over here on the right, not post library, I apologize there, tool library. Now we're going to see is that is tool 29 at the file level. And again, it has not pushed back and updated anything in my standardized library. So there really is no good way to update tool numbers quickly. Now, I don't know if you can do a compare and edit, but we can always take a look. So as you're going to see here is with tool number in the tool library, you can't actually update either with the compare and edit. Again, this would be a good one for Autodesk if there was a way to bulk update here at this menu, and that information pushed back and forth would be kind of handy. But it could also get you in trouble if you changed from 29 back to 19, but work offset 29 stays the same. So Deep Thinker, I hope that helps you out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and, or was that Deep Thinker? That was Deep Thinker. Awesome. Deep Thinker, I hope this actually helps out a little bit on how to organize your libraries to make it so that you can have consumable or rotating tools versus your standardized tooling. I would say, depending on your machines as well, I've always started to use, in the case of a Haas machine or a Fanuc, you have 200 tool offsets. I tend to always place the same tool in that same tool number, and then I have a standard 200 tool library, and I'll just swap out the pocket number at the machine to make it work. So, okay, send a file. So the question is, from the surface marked, I need to remove about 2 millimeters of material for welding. How would I do it? Oh man, you always get me with the best stuff. Let me get over here and get this file downloaded. In the meantime, I see a lot of people coming in here, guys. Welcome to Free Support Friday, as always. I am your host, Fusion Phil, here at jitcadcam. We are doing these Free Support Fridays as much as we can. I will say I am going to go on the road, I think, not next week, but the following week, so I might have to skip that one. But let's get this file imported now. And I'm good enough to make the folders, but I'm not good enough to get in here and actually upload the files, right? But then again, I didn't have the file before anything. So let's go ahead and get this file opened up and see what he's talking about. So I know he is using that lovely thing called millimeters, but we won't let that affect him too badly. But it looks like he's got a couple of surfaces. Are the purple surfaces or the orange surfaces you're looking to machine down? Orange surfaces. So there's a couple of ways, and now I have actually had to do molds like this a lot. And now the old school way of doing something like this would be is if I go in and let's say I'm finishing up these floors with like a scallop toolpath, right? So if I go 3D and I go to my scallop, again, we're going to go grab my lovely ball end mill. Now, for a lot of you guys out there, millimeters versus inches really doesn't matter. I actually recently saw a really good video talking about that it really actually doesn't matter because really you can program almost any machine in one or the other and your G code can be translated. And we'll take a look at that here in a minute. I'm just going to do this first landing, of course. And what we want is we always want to get a toolpath on our part, right? So 0.5 millimeters should be a pretty small amount. And as you can see now, we're machining on that surface. Yes, I know we're going up here on the top a little bit. We could, of course, fix that by changing our contact point boundary, things of that nature. But if I wanted to machine that surface down, in his case, 2 millimeters, is I could go to stock to leave, and then based on my radial, I could say minus point, actually not point, sorry, -2, while my radial stays at 0, right? So this is a cheap way. As you're going to see now, that toolpath has been dropped completely by 2 millimeters, right? So again, we could change our containment, of course. We could fix this edge so that we don't touch that wall, all of that. But by using the stock to leave and dropping it by 2 millimeters, I've simply gone in and achieved what I wanted. Now, another way you guys could approach something like this is I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the design side of things. Now, this is an extremely complex surface, all the modeling that's happened here. So this may or may not work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the copy and paste of my body, and I'm going to leave it right where it sits. And yes, for anybody out there, you know, setting this up with components would be your best friend. In this case, we're going to move a little quick here, but as you can see, I now have my 2 bodies. I don't have a timeline, so I do want to make sure we want to turn on that timeline. And now I'm going to modify one of these. Now, again, I can use something like the press pull tool, and this is where we're going to find out how well this is going to work. But as you're going to be able to see is if I pull down on that surface, I am getting that surface to move, and it is carrying that fillet with it. Now, my computer is locked up temporarily. The Fusion's doing some thinking on how it can reconstruct the surface, because the problem is going to rely that all these other surfaces work and are able to be repaired automatically, right? So in the case of this part, as you can see, I was able to pull that down 2 millimeters. Now, keep in mind, it is pulling down everything else with it. So I do have to be aware of that. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And to make our life easy, what I'm going to do is I am going to now compare those 2 bodies to see what works and what doesn't work. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and let Fusion think, because if there's anything that I could give any tip to anyone is when it gets stuck like this, if you get click happy, you could actually crash the system and cause a lot of problems. So it doesn't work on all surfaces, correct. So with it not working on all surfaces, we would actually have to do quite a bit of modeling. But as you're seeing here, I'm going to go ahead and change the opacity here. And now you guys can see is I did get away with pulling one surface down so that I could remove that area. So as you're seeing is in some ways you can get away with something as simple as using that push-pull tool. Now he is saying that it's not necessarily going to work for all surfaces, which is true, which means we might have to take a little bit more of a traditional approach where I could do something like an extrude and I could physically cut down that surface. Another thing you could do that I think a lot of people overlook is you have the ability to also go in and do a surface, right? So now I could go in and do an offset surface. So for example, I want to use this area right here. Now notice how we're going to grab everything. So just being safe here is if I say -2, let's get this model out of the way. What you're seeing is that blue hue across my screen versus that surface that we've offset. Again, because we've taken all of those surfaces and they are chain selected, it's also doing that backside, which according to his coloring, he did not want to change, right? So let's go back and do that offset surface again. This time we turn off chaining. I grab that surface. Again, I can pull it down my -2. If I get my model out of the way, you guys can see where I'm pulling that now down very easily and moving it. Now, there is a few other ways that you can get away with this. And again, I just want to get this to a point where you guys can see what's going on in the background. There we go. So you can see I created that offset surface. I pulled it down. Again, it's going to create a shell expanding in both X, Y, and Z from that surface. Now, another way you could use offset surface is you have that ability to do an offset of 0, right? So if I grab all of these surfaces in this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave them at 0. And then I could do a move, and I could move that based on my Z-axis down my -2 or whatever he's trying to achieve again, right? So again, as you're seeing, is I'm taking everything down with it for machining purposes. Again, I do still have a little bit of an issue here where based on the boundary I'm working with, he wants to drop everything. I assume you're trying to drop everything down and out to continue to follow these surfaces, right? I'll give you a second to answer. But again, we could do quite a bit with these tools as you guys are seeing here. So if I go back one more time, offset this whole thing as is, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the body. And now we might actually just try to reconstruct some of this stuff, right? So this is where we would use something like unstitch everything. Again, we can now do something like an extend. I want to extend certain edges down a certain amount. Again, this is just a completely different workflow than I think some people think of inside the software, right? Yeah, right. So, I mean, I know what happened. Somebody either smashed this mold or somebody called in in the ability to go and they want to modify it, right? But as you're seeing is using surface tools, again, you have some different things going on where you can continue to take those shapes and modify those shapes. And again, extend surfaces. So as he's saying, even though I did all of this pointless work, as I'm pretty sure he said in chat, right, is we could take, and again, machine this down, not so much worry about these other areas because it's all going to get welded back up. And then I assume he's going to remachine it back to 0. So it's still the same outcome. That I would say the easiest way if you can get away with it is the ability to use stock to leave. And what you're seeing is this toolpath sits on the part right now because we have the original part turned off, and now you guys can see that toolpath. But using stock to leave could be your best friend, very much so, if you're just trying to get something out of here. I do have some content I'm going to do at a later date based on like casting type scenarios, but it's still back to the same so you guys know. You can see how I have 2 different models playing around here. So if you were all doing a casting or you want a little sneak peek, is let's say, for example, my part that we're machining here is actually going to be that modified part. And now my stock is going to be based on a solid, which is that original part. Now, I would have 2 models, right? One would be the casting, one would be the manufactured part. But since we've set that up now, this little corner here has become my stock. And since it's my stock, if you were to go into your 3D toolpaths and do something like adaptive clearing, the rest machining is going to pick up on remaining stock, also previous operations. You could also do something based on a from setup stock scenario. So again, let's go out and use standard tools on a metric part. Nothing's going to make the machining world hate me more than this today, right? But again, based on the rest machining settings of your Fusion and how you use them, it will auto recognize where it can and cannot machine. Is thinking long and hard about this. So we'll give this a few minutes to think about what it needs to do. And in this case, I got an error message. Always, of course. Let's go ahead and go in and change that rest machining setting. And we're going to go from setup stock. And let's see if it gets us what we need. But as you're going to be able to see is we're going to get that 2 model comparison. Again, what needs to be machined versus what is machined type of scenario. In the meantime, I see a few other questions come in while this is loading. Panic mill post. Change the tool call out. Okay. So you want tool change to E1 M6 in brackets. And then you want N30. Is the N numbers what your post is giving you? So you would like the tool number M6 and then the next tool call out to be also in brackets, as I'm seeing. Collision avoidance getting us as always. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. I need to get an idea of how big that tool is in comparison to my part, right? Let's go ahead and show tool. There's my tool. Obviously, we're not going to be able to machine on the right. Hey, guys, there we go. Screw up number 2. That deserves a drink, right? We need a tally board. I swear. Hold on. I'm going to scroll down. All right. So nobody in chat was out there hassling me that I had my Z-axis the wrong way. So in some ways, I'm glad you guys didn't recognize it and I did. In other ways, bad on you guys for not helping me out here. Let's see if we get that toolpath to work right this time. We're going to go ahead and regenerate one more time while that sits. And we're going to go ahead and need a Fanic mill post. Sure thing. Mads Camper out there. And you know what we can do? I can pull this up at the same time. I'm just pulling out a Fanic post from online so that we can make those changes. Fusion is still thinking, so let's go ahead and pull up Visual Studio Code. And Mads Camper, are you still out there? I want to make sure I'm understanding the way you want this modified. It looks like you want M6 in brackets and then the T3 in brackets for the pre-call. So what I'm going to do is, one, I have my Fanic post opened up. You want to make sure that you have the Autodesk Fusion Post Properties utility installed. This will help you a lot with changes. What it allows you to do is to go in and do a CNC selection. In this case, this is for milling. And I am just going to go to what's called tool change, right? And the reason why I'm using tool change is because, as you can see, I'm now getting that T1 M6 on line 30. And then I'm getting my T2 call out on M35 as he's put in chat for you guys to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, and what you're seeing is it's right tool call, tool, comma, insert tool call. So that insert tool call is the actual M6 in this case. So if testing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete insert tool call. I'm going to hit Control S. And what you're noticing is it's now got rid of it altogether. So yours truly has actually removed the entire tool call. So I'm going to undo what we've done and hit save. And as you're going to see is it's come back now. So let's click it a second time. As you're seeing, it's now jumped down to another insert tool call function. Again, I can click through this to try to skim down to where I want. There's now a command for load tool. Again, this would be if that was a manually loaded tool. So as you're seeing, by clicking through this a few times, I'm getting to that block of code where I'm getting a right tool block, T plus, M format, yada, yada, yada. Now, what he requested is he wanted to see how to add those basically brackets around that M6. Now, there's a lot of ways you guys can do this, but the easiest way is I'm going to go ahead and put in my brackets in between. What is the technical term for that for anybody out there? And then I also need a plus in between. Maybe I should get familiar with the terminology of everything inside of the English language, right? Got to go ahead and remove one of those. Need a plus sign up here. I'm going to go ahead and hit space plus. And when I hit save, as you can see now, the T1 M6 is in brackets, right? So let's go ahead and do this real quick. I'm going to get the correct terminology. I've been meaning to do this. So we went ahead and did, those are brackets, parentheses, right? Parentheses. And then we put that inside of what would be, I assume, asterisk quotations, right? So there's the correct terminology for all of those that leave comments hassling about my terrible English skills. Again, we used our settings inside of Fusion. We've modified our post by putting that information out there. We've now put that within that information, right? So if I wanted to, I'm going to go ahead and copy what we've done on both sides. So I'm just using Control-C hotkeys. If I go to my T2 now, again, I can click through and try to find where it's putting that next tool call out. Now we're at where that location is, right? It was right down a little bit further in that block of code, is we are doing a preload tool, right? So if I wanted to, again, add that information in, if you guys didn't know this, you could push Window V. And now what you're seeing is I have this clipboard where I can pull all the stuff that I just put in there, right? So again, Windows V, Windows V. I'm going to hit the save sign. And now T1, M6, and T2, as requested, have both been put inside of, what are they called? Anybody in chat? I'll give you guys a minute. Mainly saying that because I completely forgot why I pull it up, but they are within parentheses as requested. So easy enough. I should say easy enough. All I did, again, very simple edits to get that to where it was. And what I'm going to do is close this out. We're going to go back to Fusion now. As you guys can see, my adaptive clearing has picked up on that gap as we were discussing. And it's now recognized the difference between my stock model, which would be your casting, and your finished machine part model. Again, this is why the 3D toolpaths are so much better at the end of the day. So, Mads Camper, I hope that helps you out with your post edits. I'm going to go jump back up to Learn It. Learn It had a question. Discuss import inspection results under the inspection tab and give us a real world example. So, Learn It, I assume you're talking about the good old fashioned probing. Hey, Bogdan out there says we did exactly what he was hoping. I'm so glad this helps you out. Again, the tool model comparison works good for stock recognition, but honestly, for what you're trying to remove, I think I would just do the old stock to leave removal. And then again, they're going to build up a weld on there, and then he's going to remachine it anyways back to the size here. Cool. So we can stay with this part in this case. We're going to go ahead and set up to do our inspection routine. First, I'm going to jump back to design real quick and change my opacity. Here's a pro tip for you. Can you change opacity in manufacture? No, you cannot. That's kind of painful. It'd be nice, right? So let's do a inspection. And what he's asking about is the import inspection results, right? So what I'm going to do is what we need to do before we import results, we need to create inspection results. Well, your inspection results can be a couple of different things. Now, you have what's called probe geometry, which is an in-process inspection. Again, tight tolerance bores, maybe keyways, things like that, right? I like to think of it as a single feature kind of probing routine. Now, inspect surface is the one that we're looking at that's going to give you a much deeper inspection upon your part, right? So I say it's comparable to a CMM, but for all of you out there, before you hassle me, it's not going to give you GD&T data. However, bullet point here, Autodesk, can we get it to do GD&T data? Please, it would be amazing, right? So let's go out and get our probe. This is the one tool I think that is in my machine that is metric, because it has a 6mm jewel on it, as all these guys are going to hassle us about. But what I need to do is I need to set my points to actually measure, right? So now this is a good example. Let's say, for example, Bogdan is going to machine this part, right? And he may have actually forgot about surface here, or he's over machined the surface. Now, you can go in and you can set your tolerancing of those surfaces. Now, what that's going to do is when you import those results, it's going to tell you whether or not you're good or not based on those result settings, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to generate this inspection results. Normally, you would post this out and you would go run this on your machine. So I think I have a do some post here. Awesome. We post this out. It's failed, of course. Why did it fail? Work coordinates 0. Okay. Got to fix that real quick. We're going to go ahead and make sure I never do this again. I recommend everybody does this. Set this to 1 and then go ahead and right click, save as user default. Now, every time you make a setup, it'll always start with 1. But let's go ahead and post this out. So I'm posting this out to show you guys what your machine would want to run. Probe on command, of course, because FANUC needs probe on and probe off. We're going to go ahead and switch out to a Haas post. But let's go ahead and let's see here. Actually, probing and inspection. We'll have to fix that later. This was a post I was doing some testing on. So we have our, let's go to the default library, as you guys know. OS inspection, right? We don't want pre-NGC. Next gen control inspect surface. So one thing is you want to make sure that you're getting a post with the inspection capabilities and the inspect surface. This will be very handy for you at the end of the day. So we're going to base this in the free support Friday. Don't use post library because this is where I usually butcher things. And let's go ahead and post out now what should be known good G code. So this is the way the actual OS post is going to spit this out. But what it's doing is it's doing deprinting, it's sending things to the parameters, it's writing things to a file if you're doing so. This is the code to run the machine, right? And what it is doing is plotting points. That's all it's doing. It's not real crazy at the end of the day. But if I go ahead and come back and I post this a second time, and everybody has access to this, I don't know about the hobbyist license, but there's actually a post for generating inspection results, right? Now, what you're seeing is I'm going to the Autodesk library of posts, and then what you'll see is there is a, where is it here? Results file generator for probing, right? And what this is going to do is this is going to generate me results based on a deviation, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit post. This file, got to make this clear to you guys. This file is the file that your machine would have created, right? So I've showed you the G code to take to the machine. This is actually the G code you're going to remove from the machine, right? So these are all the points that we've actually plotted in space on our part, right? So with that, I need to import those inspection results. So we're going to go ahead and go to inspection now. I'm going to do my action. We're going to hit import inspection results. Now I need to select that file that we've generated, which means I need to go chase down where that file is. I believe it fell under NC program. Let's see here. We might have to repost it to somewhere where I know where it is. Let's do that one more time. Post process. 1000. And let's just put it on my desktop so it's easier to grab, right? There we go. There's our results. Import inspection results. Again, guys, I can't stress this enough. One, you could do this if you have the post that's in the default library, but two, this is the file you would pull from your machine, right? So what you're seeing here, before I go through and start messing with anything, is this is the results. This is what we got back, right? So as you're seeing, all of those surfaces are considered good. Now they're considered good because of the settings of that post I used to make the results. But you can now validate and see those results. See how much you're deviating. What is the deviation? What is the problem with those actual points in space, right? So you could also create what's called an inspection report if your customer is looking for something. Again, this inspect surface is the key element when you go in and you're actually going to do anything from here like part alignment, stuff of that nature, right? So as you're seeing here as I'm pulling up the inspection report, and again, that inspection report is going to be a view capture of what you were looking at when you've created it, as well as a list of all those data points for your customer. So again, real nice for first article, last article, showing your customer that you're doing a million things above and beyond to make them happy and make perfect parts. Now, again, since we've actually done that inspection, we have that ability to do a part alignment as well. So if we wanted to part alignment, we need results. We've already created those results, right? So I can go ahead and bring in those results right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit OK. And what this is going to do is now generate an alignment, right? So we've already posted for alignment, which means you would post G code. We can then import our inspection results. We've already done that. We can show the alignment information, which means it's going to transform or shift our part. These are all in millimeters, guys. And it's going to rotate all of our G code. So it's adjusting the G code to the part. That's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is part alignment is adjusting the G code. It's not doing a plane shift at the controller. It's not moving the planes or anything there. We're doing that all with the G code coming out of Fusion. So what this would mean is what would normally be a straight line in X is now an angular line in X, Y, and technically it's only in the YZ plane that it shifted, right? So when that G code comes out, it's going to look night and day difference. But again, once you get those inspection results imported, there's a lot of things you can do with it as you're seeing. I do see Discord just jumped up. I see one of our all-time viewers, Travis, is sending me a photo. I kind of see what he's going for now that he's talked about, now that he's asked. He was asking about threading and clocking threads inside of Fusion, which is a little tricky, but let me get back over here so I can see you guys in chat. Travis is finally here. Yeah, I see that, Travis. Does anybody else have any other questions in the meantime? I do see my phone is also going off with notifications. Make sure everything squares up. So with that, some busy day. Yeah. So what Travis is asking about is, I don't know, can I move this? I can't. I think I have to download it, right? Save image. Sure. We'll save it there. Now we got to go on a wild goose chase to find it, right? So Travis was asking about clocking his thread, but I assume it's the starting of the first thread is what he's asking about, right, Travis? Where and how can you define the start of the first thread inside of Fusion? Guess I should pull up my chat so I can make sure that I know that everybody's out there. So he's doing this with milling. I'm going to go ahead and just create a simple part for doing this. Actually, I think we have something that'll work here, right? Go ahead and flip our Z, anger all my tool paths. Oh, do that one more time. Flip it back the other way. There we go. And we sure don't need 3D on the outside of this part. So I just did this to rough out the part for stock purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 2D thread cycle. Now, there is what's called a start angle. And this is where you would need to define where that's going to be based on the part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a very generic little thread mill. I don't think there is a default thread mill, is there? Where is it? Thread mill. Tiny little guy, 1/420, right? Perfect. Surface that we're going to machine. And so what you're seeing right now is we are currently starting over here on the left as we do our milling in and out of this part. I see something about a copy and paste. Do it with a copy and paste of thread. I was curious how to do it with milling. Maybe I don't fully understand your question, Travis. Are you in Discord? Can you jump into a voice chat real quick and explain it to me? We try something crazy and new, guys, where you guys can hear whoever's talking to me in voice chat? Oh, you're talking about using live tooling on a lathe. Oh, same procedure would happen. Let's pull up another part. So, realistically speaking, it's still going to be the same whether it's lathe or mill because you're still using a thread mill toolpath based on that information, right? So you have that ability to change where it starts, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong in my thinking. As you can see, I can clock that thread start by using my start angle to adjust it, right? So again, as when we were at 0, we're at 120. As you can see, is we could rotate that around in any way, shape, or form. Now, you could also do things like multiple threads here if you guys didn't know, which means we're going to do a double lead thread. Ah, I see. Okay, so you're talking about... Okay. Yeah, so what Travis is referring to, I will need a lathe part for this, of course, is he's trying to do thread chasing with a live tool after he's gone in and done something with like a turning tool as if he sent a part to heat treating, right? So there's no real good way to do this in Fusion as it sits at this day. Now, if you knew where your threads were starting on a part, you could obviously get away with some things. But here's my part. Again, we have our inside type work. What he's referring to is if he was doing inside threading. I think I have a threading tool up, ID threading, OD threading, ID grooving. I'd have to make a ID threading tool here real quick. That's all right. We could throw one together. Thread. Where is it here? My brain just not working. Jumping back from mill into lathe all the time gets me every time. Right-handed, straight threading, inch. Where is the, am I thinking wrong? Inside versus outside? Yeah, I know. I keep telling you guys got to give me content for the mill turn Thursdays. Am I? There it is. Internal thread. See, I'm not crazy. Thought I was crazy. I'm not crazy. Yeah, we got to fix that tool. I broke that pretty badly. Head length is going to be 1. Am I also doing this wrong? Somebody tell me. I wouldn't surprise me anymore. I do a lot of things wrong. Yeah, I did it quite wrong. Yours truly's tool is way too much. I've come accustomed to you guys making fun of me all the time. That is not going to do it. Nope. Oh, man. When in doubt, something else, right? Can you switch? Still able to switch from one to the other? So, but I'm surprised that that doesn't just instantly toggle from one to the other. Kind of crazy. All right. Threading. Inch. Rectangular profile, triangle, doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's what I did before. I was trying to figure that out, but it's not doing it as a... There we go. That's... See? That's why Travis gets paid big bucks, guys. The problem is the operator, right? So in your holder, you must change it to internal threading to make an internal threading tool, right? That would make more sense. But now the question is why do we have our tool facing down? See here. Threading. Yeah, it is definitely a short between the operator and the machine. Ah, Autodesk, fix this, please. Oh, you know what it is? It's because somebody went in here, I think, and did a bunch of wild stuff. Nope, not so much. We're going to go with the insert triangle. How it really looks messed up. Let's go. We're going to break it. We're going to break it hard, right? I'm missing something. I'm missing something easy. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. Somebody out there is going to say something here. Hopefully. Internal threading. I mean, right-handed or neutral wouldn't make a difference. You'll send a pic in Discord. Yeah. Am I doing something way wrong, Travis? What is profile 60? Sure. Doesn't really matter. I feel like this isn't on me for once. Although it could be. Oh, you know what? It is on me. Look at that. Right? Something like that, technically. And shouldn't it be something like this, too? It's just that head of that tool is so massive. Where is tolerance? All right, let me pull up Discord here. How is... There we go. Oh, it's funny. You send me that screenshot. And your first thing is units. How am I getting something different? That's funny. I have type. We're just having nothing but problems. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show. That's what I wanted to change overall length. Here we go. That's it. We're calling it. Show's over. Hey, we got a internal threading tool. It only took forever. Right? And now we're doing inside threading. All right. Thread face. Here. Not supported. Let's go. I can't win. You guys see this, right? Hey, we finally got a toolpath. It only took forever, right? With that, I definitely going to be enjoying some beers here. We got it. We got it, right? So, again, what Travis is talking about in the event that we actually simulate this, and what we're going to do is we are going to turn off the model. Of course, this is going to look terrible. But he's gone in and he's turned threads on this part already, which means there's a specific point for a lead-in on a thread. And I know this is a little messy for a lot of you to see out there. And the issue is having your thread bore or your thread milling happen to match that exact profile, right? So knowing that exact entry point here, also knowing that exact entry point when we talk about doing thread milling, right? So if I went back and I actually stole that other tool path, am I right in my assumption that you're doing something with like heat treat, Travis? So as you can see, is where we start here and where it engages in the part. This part is spinning. So it's actually, although it's engaging in the x-axis here, it might actually be engaging at like a 3 o'clock or a 12 o'clock type of position. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 0 o'clock. But matching now the thread milling that chases after the fact, right? So, of course, we should make sure that our pitch is the same. Let's say this is 0.05. Which is a quarter 20, which is the same here, which is now our thread pitch 0.05. But the real issue comes down to, and this simulation is going to look terrible. So give me a quick second here. It's not necessarily going to match up the way it should from one to the other, right? Maybe we'll bore this out or make this out of tubing, right? Size 2. Beautiful. And then we are just going to hit this with an inside boring path. Not take 47 minutes to set everything up. Selection. Selection. I don't know, 40 for back off. There we go. Just trying to give you guys the best content possible out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to simulate this now. You guys are going to see we're going to rough this out. Now we can see nice clean threads with that threading tool, of course. And what I'm going to do is we're going to turn that model off again. But like we said, the problem still happens is when we come in now to do our next toolpath, which will be this thread mill, is where he is engaging with that thread mill versus the actual threads that have been created, right? As you're seeing, as we're starting to come around, and it might be a little crazy to see. Let's go ahead and flip out of comparison to operation. But as you're seeing that thread mill work its way around, although it's doing the right threads per inch, the problem is right off the start, as you're seeing, is where this is lining up. I know it's not far enough out for you guys, but we're not lining up at the correct Z height between this path and this path, which is what Travis is fighting, right? So the real issue is when he goes in to thread mill this, everything is coming out all wonky and it's not lining up perfectly, right? Oh, there we go. You guys can still hear me and everything all right? Just want to make sure. Had to do a 1-inch lead thread. Yeah, right. So what he's saying is he really had to go through some wild stuff because he actually had to do multiple threads, 3 of them in that instance, right? And then on top of that, his other threading would have been multiple threads, 3 of them. And then on top of that, we do need to actually put in an offset here. Let's say 0.05 in this case. That's diameter, so we'll go 0.1. So again, is looking at that when we simulate it, the real problem is there's no clean way in Fusion at the end of the day to go through and actually set from his case. Again, like we said, is he went off, he had something heat treated, and then he came back after the fact, and he wanted to remachine those surfaces, right? What you're seeing happen now is we're actually doing those multiple threads. Let's jump to our next tool. And now you're seeing is 3 threads. Again, terrible pitch and everything here. But what we're looking for is how do we get these guys to all align each and every time, right? So when we're looking at this, back this up a little bit, give it a sec to regenerate, is that thread point is not aligned with our other threads that are inside this part. And he probably had flats or something to clock this and hold on to it very well. But yeah, he would have to adjust, in this case, his bottom height or his top height to change the way this is going to work at the end of the day to get it to align. Any other questions outside of that? Dylan's still out there. Great to see you guys. Maybe it's time for me to take a bathroom break. I've been super worked up, going like crazy. I'll open it up for any and all questions as always, right? Before I go ahead and jump out for a bathroom break. Oh, man, I got to change that. We no longer got the give it to the government discount going on. Well, let's go ahead and get that turned off. So here at jitcadcam, we are an Autodesk reseller. We appreciate you guys in any way, shape, or form. A lot of you guys out there in the chat are our customers in some way, shape, or form, whether it be just putting in random support tickets throughout the year, buying us beers, or buying support training packages, and even purchasing your software from us. So just know any way you can support this channel, we're happy about anything and everything. Obviously, as simple as a like or sharing our video on one of the many Facebook groups out there so that you can get our content out to more people and to make sure that they understand the goods, the bads of Fusion. And also bring anybody and everybody here to our Free Support Friday, where you basically have free range to ask any questions you may or may not have in Fusion, or bring those problems that you guys have had. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick $5. I will be right back. Dylan, do you have a PayPal? I do have PayPal. It's just my normal email address. I can throw it in chat if that works for you. But I am going to go ahead and hit the bathroom real quick and be right back, gents. And ladies out there, of course. All right, now we're back. There we go. Y'all should be able to hear me. You know, I just realized I should copy this timer. I do this? Hold on here. And put this on the old, I paste it. There we go. Oh, we just got to move it. That way, when you guys randomly show up and haven't been here this whole time, they have an idea when I'm coming back. You like that? Fancy, huh? We're only the classiest of classy over here. Also, Dylan, huge shout out. That guy just bought me, I think, an entire keg of beer. I appreciate it in every way, shape, or form. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up as always. Is there any other questions that anybody know or needs to see inside of Fusion 360? Not in Canada. Oh, I drink Busch Light, man, so that probably is an entire keg. Are you guys going to get hit with this giant cold spell coming through? I kind of laugh at a lot of people that, like, poor people down in Texas are going to get hit with, like, 30-degree weather, and I woke up this morning to negative 36-degree weather, so. What was that? What did we see in the release news? Negative 30 C's. Yeah. What's negative 30 versus Fahrenheit? Because I think what is 0 is still 32, isn't it? Negative 22. Oh, yeah. There you go. With the wind, Dylan, or not? Just ground temp. Yeah, that's cold, man. Let's see here. I kind of want to see more. Since nobody's got any questions, I'm going to subject you guys to my shenanigans here. So let's see what's in the... We're looking at the what's new here. And there was that big old fancy thing. We got to do leads and links. Oh, hey, look at that. 30% off Autodesk Fusion. You guys know I also offered that 30% off. You can buy it through me and support me and this channel, just so you guys didn't know. But we're going to decline that offer because some of us already have it, right? So let's look here. What was it saying about probe geometry fitting? All right. Probing of stock, for example, fixed size box. Oh. I kind of wonder if Learnit was curious about this here. By the way, Learnit's real name is Ty. Ty over at Learnit, great guy. So what I'm going to do is, let's take a look here. So we're going to do our probe WCS stock, right? Guess it doesn't really... Maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm thinking wrong. Yeah, right? We all got to figure it out one way or another. Let's see something here. All right, sure. We'll probe. Where's my probe? Actually put that over in the VF2 folder for later. What are they referring to? Oh, I love... Oh, probe geometry. Okay, not probe WCS. That would make more sense. Idiot. Stock. So you can now measure your stock. Is there anything cool you could do? Not really. I'm missing something. I forgot to change screens. Yeah, I'm missing that. All right. Oh, all right. Is that really all they added? Hold on. I'll come back to this, guys. Hold on. Probe geometry. I think that's all they added. I think I hyped this up way too much. Fit the probing of stock. Yeah. So they did. That's all they changed. Makes me laugh. So I found it. So at first I did probe WCS, and then you know how you have this lovely model versus stock right here for probing WCS? Well, they decided to add that to probe geometry now. Surprise! There you go. There it is. You can now do... Before, you had to do model, and then a stock model, I guess, but... So then, did they make it... Let's see something here. let's get into this. Let's break it. So what happens if my stock is a model? Huh? Anybody know? Find out. Because before you had to do the whole. You know what? I should do this a way cooler way. You guys want to see a way cooler way? Check this out. When you're in design and you have your timeline on, right? Capture design history. You could go to modify now, and you can go to simplify, and we could say replace with primitive. Okay. And now look at that. Look at that. Automatically makes a box for you. Huh? The problem with this, though, one, you don't get the control of like symmetrical or this way or that way or anything like that. The other thing is what it's going to do is take this body and it's going to convert it into a primitive. Watch. Now my body is not a part. It is just a box, right? Autodesk, bullet point. Can you make it so it creates new body? That would be amazing. Or when you go in and you do simplify like this, I love that I can give it a different size, right? It does look like it stays on center, which is nice, right? So like if you really wanted to like use this to the advantage, but now what you're seeing is I'm dead center with that part, right? I'm not offsetting one side versus the other side. I'm just making a bigger box in all directions. It'd be cool if this tool had a little bit more technology where it was aimed at guys like me manufacturing, and then I could say create new body, right? That would be so neat. But nope, I got to copy and paste, and then I got to break the first one, right? That's how we're going to do this. All right, simplify, replace this guy. Let's say we go 2.25, 3.25, and then, I don't know, 1.25. Now I have a simplified primitive, and I still have my part. See? Fancy, right? But what I'm referring to is if I went in and I said from solid, right? Got a from bounding solid. That's kind of neat. How's that one work? You guys use this one yet? Yeah, you can't just... Man, some of this stuff makes me wonder. Let's go solid, right? And then that simplified primitive is now my solid, which is now gone. But if I wanted to do probe geometry of stock, this is the problem. This is another issue that I see. I want to probe my stock, right? Well, let's turn on my stock. I can't pick my stock, right? You guys seen this? I have to say model, but I'm not probing my model that I'm machining. I'm probing a model. As well, I'm not able to pick my stock surfaces. But if you don't use a from solid, right? We'll go back to the old fixed size box. Then, and only then, when you pick a stock surface, again, that surface is based on the stock being generated in the background. Why can't it like all work the same, right? Like if I pick a body as my stock, it should always be stock to pick that solid, right? That's just my take on it. Let's go back and play with some other stuff now. What is from bounding solid? You guys seen this one yet? Select bounding solid. Do we look it up? You could always look it up, right? That wasn't in the list. Are we missing it? Solids from surface. Oh. Maybe I have something that I'm not supposed to have. What do you guys think? What is it that they... give you info? Nope. Lets you specify a component created with the bounding solid tool Create a stock that machine. Okay, hold on. Let you specify a component created with the bounding solid tool. What is the bounding solid tool? There's something new that we don't know about here? Select by boundary. Side boundary. Something new. Yes. Select by bounding. Yeah, I selected it. Guess that didn't do anything. Are we missing something? I'm always missing something. Is this why you guys come here? Watch me completely screw things up? I feel like it is. Is it in the design side? In boundary? Let's go back here. Hold on. Am I crazy? Component created with the bounding solid tool. Is this some crazy crap where you got to do manufacturer model? I think you're right. Oh, man. Create manufacturer model. All right. Enter manufacturer model. You don't need the simplify part. Oh, man. Why do I feel like... Oh. Actually, you know what? If this works the way I'm thinking, it's going to be a good time. It's actually going to be beneficial if I can find it. I want to select seat. How can I... All right, hold on here. I want to replace. All right. Wait, am I crazy? Wait, okay, hold on. Create. Oh, we don't want to import. You guys have any idea? Going once, going twice? I want to insert. Hold on here. Go back. I'm crazy, right? One day we needed Autodesk to show up. Bounding solid. I'm crazy. Crazy as can be. Yeah, we don't have... That ain't gonna work. Anybody else figured out? Going once, going twice? My company is in Deckmark. Can you also correct our post? Ads, do you need a copy of that post? What you're asking? Or if you email me with the support email down below, I'll change your post and I'll send it back to you, man. What in the world do they want? Is there... Okay, hold on. Is there like a right-click shenanigans going on here? Or is there like some secret menu that we gotta populate? Go back to the web page. Create boundary fill. What is this? Oh, we got to solve, though. Let's see here. Here we go. Oh. Apparently, that's a no-go. Shouldn't be showing that. That's all. We're going to leave it at that. No more. We were looking at something that's there that I don't think is supposed to be there right now. I don't know how I keep getting this thing installed because I shouldn't be showing that stuff, but somehow end up with it each and every time. I just want to verify a few things here quick. Yeah, we're gonna leave that one alone. Any other questions out there? I actually had a pretty good thing happen the other day that had me laughing. You guys want to see it? One of my customers reached out. So they were using Machine Sim. So if I go back to manufacturer here, and their Machine Sim, it's not because I'm an insider. Is that in everybody's version? I don't have the insider installed. That's the thing. I've never installed the insider version. I signed up, which I tell you guys, if you guys ever want to see really cool shit happening in Fusion, go sign out for the insider program. You get access to like the forum where all the cool stuff is happening. You get to help shape the product, right? I avoid it because I use the stable version so that like when people have problems with their version, we have matching versions, right? But yeah, I mean, I guess everybody has it in their Fusion. I don't know what's going on over there. Be cool to see where it goes. Hopefully, knock on wood. The way I was thinking, I think some of you are thinking this way, is we can finally reference the part possibly across manufacturer models or something, right? Like something crazy, because that's another problem in Fusion is I would use manufacturer model if I could reference my part across multiple manufacturer models, right? From setup 1 to setup 2, and then my continuous rest machining would work, right? Help shape the products. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of complaining. I laugh every time. Every time I open up Facebook and somebody out there on Facebook is like posted about there's some new problem with Fusion, right? Like this is a good one. I'll show you guys this one. I got to see if I can force it here. So let's do this. So like I was saying, it was with machine simulation and I want to break one of these. So we're going to break one of these today. Select this machine. I had to Google search this one because I was like laughing super hard at it, right? So, all right. So there, let's move this up. Maybe it is still broken on this part to start with, but here's my machine, right? Here's my part. And if I was to do a facing cycle, right? Notice how mine calculates, right? Now, the problem is the calculation was not happening. And I'm going to see if I can intentionally break this machine. So give me a hot minute, guys. We're going to edit this machine in Builder. And what was happening is when you set up your machine, you now have this ability to select a head, right? As you can see, this could be my Z-axis. And I think this model was built way too well. So let's see if we can break this out a little bit. Okay. So we have a couple of pieces in the head. And hold on here. What do we got going on? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So check this out. So this is our spindle, right? I'm not going to rename it, but you guys can see that that's our spindle. So let's say our Z-axis is these two pieces, right? And now my head is going to be that other piece. Now, I don't think it's going to allow us to do this because this is doing stuff at a component level. Yeah, see, it's trying to grab the entire component. So we may really have to go deep on breaking. But what was happening is, get that component. Oh, there, oh. And I'm just breaking everything today. You notice how all my stuff's disappearing now when I try to create components? Let's restart this. It was causing a dilemma inside of Fusion, which was breaking the way that tool was supposed to work, right? There we go. We created a component now. Create all these components. We should be able to now really mess this thing up. So as you guys can see, we have our Z-axis selection, which is not going to be that guy. It's going to be these two. And then my head selection is going to be this guy. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to complete out this machine. And then as you're going to see is we are now going to require bringing in the new version of this machine. I wonder if it's going to do it. Probably not. They might have fixed it by now. There it is. No, so I forced it. You guys are seeing this, right? So it only does it with your facing toolpath. But do you see how it says unknown parameter holder clearance? This was happening to 2 of my customers. And the issue is because you saw me select the head as a component. It's now caused this whole thing to cause problems. So Chuck, I see your question out there. Is there a way to add a delayed dwell to allow my TCS to fully come online before my machine starts drilling? Yes, there is. So we could edit your post processor. Chuck, what post processor are you using? If you don't mind throwing that in chat, I'll pull up a version of it so that you can kind of see as real as we can get on a live setting. But yeah, as you guys see, literally because there was a head selected, which this is what really gets funny, is there is machines in the Fusion library that have the head selected that were causing this problem. And I had to find a post from somebody. But yeah, it all traces back to that whole selection of the head there causing the problem. All right, Chuck's got a DN solution, so let's go ahead and pop this open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, of course, go grab the latest and greatest version of the DN post. So give me a quick second while I download this. And I'm just pulling this from the website, so you guys know, just makes it much easier to put this in my downloads folder so that I can delete it later. So it is DN Solutions now because of who knows why on the branding. But let's go ahead and pull up that Doosan post. Again, we are using that extension plugin from Autodesk to make everything nice and pretty and color-coded, and also give us the ability to output a tool path of some sort. Now, in this case, I already know this isn't going to actually get what we need because when he's talking about TCS, he's talking about through spindle coolant, right? So he wants to come in, turn on his spindle, of course. He has this tool change code, and then his M8 is his tool.coolant. Now, the easiest thing that he could do if he wanted to is he could program in right here is a right block. And then again, in the great worlds of parentheses and brackets and all kinds of fun stuff, he could simply say, I think it is G4E1000 with like a decimal. And what you're seeing me do here upon hitting save is I'm forcing a G4P1000 to be output. Now, the thing is, this isn't going to populate it when we do the set tool.coolant, right? And the reason why it's not going to do it is because we wrote it right above. So if you know what your dwell is on your machine, and if you don't know what your dwell is, if you have the right post processor, funny thing is you control F and search dwell. And usually somewhere in your actual program, function on dwell, they're going to give you the information on how to write a dwell or what is that dwell, right? So again is dwell cycles. Again, you have a lot of different ways to write out that dwell. That variable is P in this case, right? So again, if we scroll down a little bit, there should be a P value somewhere. Let's see, PEC output, deep drilling, conditional, P greater than 0, P plus milling format, blah, blah, blah. Again, what you're seeing is if you know what your dwell is or your call for a dwell, it's very easy to plug that information in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. Again, I'm going to click on M8. Again, we have right block coolant codes. What I'm looking for isn't where it's setting the tool coolant. I want to know what is the actual function that coolant, right? So what you're seeing now is this is where it's actually writing the M8 line or any information outside of that. So this is where I would want to go in and put that information in, right? So again, we have our right block. We have a right block here as well. We could start off with a right block as well. But that's what you're looking to do is, again, is you could plug in that right block. Oh, nope. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just put in test. This usually tends to be the easiest way to accomplish things like this. And again, you're not seeing anything populate. Now, that might not be populating right here because we have an else statement. So it could actually be writing it down here. So I'm going to plug that in down lower. And now you see that test has been populated, right? So again, is I could swap that test out for whatever that call out is. Again, I'm going with G4 P1000. And again, you're now seeing G4 P1000 being populated. If he wanted to get much more technical, I wouldn't show you guys how to do this, but what you could do at the end of the day is if you send us our post processor, we could make a big elaborate system that says if through spindle coolant is being used, then put a dwell. Or in his case, he can actually always have a dwell, right? So we can change up the variable from having through spindle coolant only causing a dwell or having just about, all those coolant codes call a dwell. I would say another thing you could do, Chuck, if you didn't know, you could actually put a check valve in the system. I've seen that a lot where the check valve will actually keep that fluid in there so it doesn't back drain back to your actual coolant. Any other questions outside of that? What time are we getting down to? 3/4 of the way through this, hour and a half in. Do we have any other questions? Anything else anybody else wants to see? We've hit 100 views. I feel like that's always the best thing is when we do these live sessions that we get 100 views, which means 100 times somebody has came in and gone out. I know Travis likes to pad our stats by entering and exiting 27 times as his boss walks by when he's changing out parts. But for the rest of you, we highly appreciate you guys. We open this up to you in any way, shape, or form. Any type of content you guys want to see, questions, problems you're having. Chuck, I haven't seen any response yet. I hope that kind of answers your question on a quick way to do something. But what else do we have out there? Awesome. So it does look like that helps. I'm going to scroll up through chat and make sure. Anything else? Did we miss any questions? I see Mads Camper. Mads Camper, like I said, send us an email, man. I'm happy to change your post. We could actually do it right now live. To check the ticket area to make sure that he hasn't actually sent over a ticket. And close out this ticket. There we go. Solved. How's everybody's week so far? Good week? Half week? Partial week? Someone does have to work. As you can tell, I'm not. I get to play on YouTube and break Fusion live in front of a bunch of people. That's a good idea. Deep Thinker, obviously, with another idea is to move when the actual coolant code kicks on. That's not a bad idea at all. That's a really easy fix is, again, going to that M8 block, you can see we have set coolant. What I like to do personally, I'm going to go ahead and throw a double backslash in the front. And then at the end of this, I usually put something so I know that I edited it and made that change, right? So usually I'll put what I did and then maybe JCC for jitcadcam, of course. Now, I know I canceled this out, but I also need to copy this line of code, right? So again, the good old copy and paste move, because as he was saying is if we turn it on right after we went ahead and start our spindle, right? I can come down here to where it says start spindle. Again, I can hit enter. I can paste in set coolant right after it. Oh, I have to hit Control S. Oh, it's done that to me before. File, save. Give me 1 sec. There we go. And now upon hitting save, you can see that it's automatically jumped up. Again, we still have that G4, but my M8 is now coming on when my spindle turns on. It doesn't come on after my H callout. Now, this is a tidbit dangerous because I hear this argument on both sides. One, if I was using through spindle coolant, yes, turning it on after my spindle turns on, amazing thing, right? Now, a lot of people complain, and I think this post processor, it shouldn't have, is they want the actual coolant to turn on where we originally had it, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind, that in some cases, people want it down when you call your height, so it turns on right above your part, not at the top of Z. So that would be one reason why you may or may not want that. But no, Deep Thinker's right. It's not a bad idea to turn on through spindle coolant at the tool change position, basically. And again, just keep in mind, some of you that like to run the machine with the doors open, I don't recommend it. You're going to get wet, right? So if you roughing profile, use can cycle in control. If not, G41, G42. Yep. I mean, that's simple. That's why we got, so you guys know, this is why we do this free support Friday. It's not necessarily for you guys to harass me, even though I love it and being put on the spot, but also it's why we have the Discord channel for you guys to actually use each other as an outlet for support and help. And I've seen that quite a bit. You know, I haven't had time to get in there as much as I like to be ready for you guys, but it does seem that a lot of you out there are more than willing to help each other, regardless of if you're a master of Fusion, which I don't think I'm anywhere close, to being a novice beginner, of course. So let's look at this. Can cycle and in control, G41, G42. Mads, are you talking about a milling toolpath, or are you talking about a lathe toolpath? Also, what post processor are you using? Again, guys, as we jumped away from, notice how I broke it, because I selected the head. Yeah, I gotta say, Travis and a few others in there are always there to answer, I think, before I even get a chance. One of these days, we'll get Travis on our live. Travis, where are you located again? So Mads is talking about a lathe. We can take a look at that here in a minute. What I'm doing is I'm cleaning up this file real quick. I was going to do some tool paths on here in the meantime, but let's look at a lathe part, right? What post are you using, Mads? If you don't mind me asking. We'll give him a few minutes to answer. Meantime, let's go ahead and jump back over. I like this part. I hate this part, but I like this part. I am so glad I don't have to do stuff like this. But let's take a look at it, right? This is a good part to put up some arguments on, right? So one, beautifully designed part. I don't know who did it. Amazing. All kinds of coolant channels in the back, or vacuum for air. As you can see, great time, right? So when somebody brings me stuff like this, or a lot of companies out there ask me about like mold making in Fusion, and there's so much power, but it still comes back to a pretty simple system. We have to rough out our part. And this is the time where I tell most people, you'll always use pocket clearing when it comes to molds over adaptive clearing. And the reason for that is because your molds are usually very large in size. And that being said, is you're going to go in with something like a 1-inch high feed mill or a 2-inch even to start this whole process off. Now, this is a good point for me to point out. A lot of people say face mill. And yes, we all know Fusion does not have insert mills as an option, but I tend to tell people you could also set up your face mills as a bowl end mill as well, right? So if I was to use like a 1-inch high feed mill, I would actually come in and usually define it as a bowl end mill. Now, if you have a tapered bottom on that tool, that's a whole nother scenario, and it's going to be a little tricky for you to use. But let's copy this tool over. Let's go ahead and paste this into my VF2. I'm going to make a couple edits to this tool. One of which is a 15 thou radius on this tool is a little small. So let's go up to like a 60. Again, we're going to want that tool to more or less stick out even further. Now, again, you could build out the shaft and the holder and everything here, guys. But knowing that that would pretty much be a pretty square tool and I'm not going to ever undercut with it, I would go ahead and say, you know, maybe it's 8 inches long, and then our length below holder is going to be somewhere like 6, right? As you can see, I can actually define something very easy when it comes to the profile of the tool. So with that, the reason why I would go pocket clearing on something like this is because we're going to use the full width of the tool, and then we're going to do a maximum roughing step down. So in this case, we did give that a 60 thou radius on there. So I would do less than a 60 thou radius. Maybe we do like 0.5. And then I'm going to type in IN because I believe that somebody got millimeters wrong on this part and I've yet to change it. But as you can see, Fusion has accommodated for me to do millimeter machining with inch tooling by using IN or IMM. And with that, what you're going to see is this is going to very quickly go out and start to rough out this part. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at why I'm getting an error. So we are getting an error, bounding box, tool on center, rest machining is actually screwing us here, guys. And the reason why rest machining is messing with us is yours truly changed things up. And I'm using a from solid when that should be a fixed size box, of course. And that's why we are having that problem. We went out and we did some back and forth between two items. But as you're seeing, we're now roughing out this part based on using that actual high feed mill. Now, I do need to make a few changes because I would like this to actually have no boundary. And what that would allow is machining in and out of that part with concerns to the containment of our stock, of course. Corrado, nice to see you out there. Mads, let's go ahead and look at what you're trying to do. Again, as you guys can see, we're now machining way down this part, but we are also starting from outside our stock. Let's get our linking moves turned off so we can see a little bit more of how clean that tool path is getting, right? So again, as we're starting from the outside of our stock and working our way in, making this much easy to rough out this part in particular. Another tip, guys, F7 here turns on and turns off your tool path. So I don't need to go into simulation to really see what is and isn't machined yet. I can actually do that in real time. So we're going to go ahead and get back here. He was talking about a roughing profile on a tool path. I need to use F7 to turn on that tool path, of course. We're going to go ahead and post-process this with a, looks like he has a Haas machine is what he was saying. So let's go into our lovely post-processors here. And we're going to go ahead and grab a Haas post again. Turning. And let's just say he was running something on like an ST15, right? So we're going to go ahead and copy that over to somewhere where I could delete it later. And with that, when we post this out, his concern is being able to use G41 and G42 CAN cycles, right? So what you're seeing here is we're actually getting a G71 CAN cycle from what it looks like. So the reason for that is well, G41 and G42 should have been tool wear, if I'm correct, right? Now, on a roughing cycle inside of Fusion, it's not actually going to do wear compensation. Just so you guys know, whether it be milling or roughing, I've had a lot of, or milling or roughing, milling or lathe roughing. It's not really going to use cutter comp in any way, shape, or form, or in his settings, right? So we can add that. It's possible to be added. I don't usually recommend it unless you fully need it, right? Bogdan, did you see that? Yeah, it calculated fast, and I hate to say it, guys, I'm not on anything very impressive of a computer. I actually bought this computer $1,300 on a killer deal a couple of months ago, and it does do quite a lot very quick. But it's kind of a trick, too, because if you were to do that same thing as you guys saw here with adaptive clearing, remember, this is going to take a maximum step down and then an X amount of step over. The reason why that calculated out so fast as you saw, hold on, I'm going to have to turn off rest machining. I already know it. We want to do, of course, you can't just turn it off anymore, can you? Here we go. So the reason why it goes so fast is the data points that reside inside the toolpath is used. So again, you're talking about toolpaths that are 3 megabytes here, and this thing is just starting to build itself out and step up a lot more. Travis wants to know my secret to why my settings are so fast. There's actually, when I get into finishing toolpaths, there is some changing, and I'll show you guys that here. But I just wanted to show you guys, again, it did calculate fast, and you could actually look at these stats if you're a nerd like me. You can look at our log. We can see this took 16 seconds. Again, we could look at the log on this toolpath. This took 8 seconds, but it still usually comes down to the number of points being calculated. And you could actually turn on your points to see, right? So if I go into my toolpath and I say points, every one of those black dots you're seeing here is a change in direction, right? So again, is this roughing strategy here, although we're not taking as deep of cuts and it's hard to make the comparison, a adaptive clearing is much more arcy. And I say arcy because as you're seeing, when we come around these corners, it's making a lot of little segment changes because it's making those moves, right? So again, as if we look at something more like pocket clearing, not the best of examples, but if you look at this first pass up here at the top, very long straight line. Every time, of course, we arc into that straight line, again, you're going to have a point because you're at some point ending the curve and going back straight. But that's where you're going to see a very fast calculation. Pocket clearing always calculates faster. Now, some of the settings Travis is actually pointing at is if I go to something like a scallop toolpath, this is where we can get out our lovely ball end mill, right? And with that, if I look at my passes tab, I'm going to go ahead and change back to the freedom units. Give me a sec here, guys. Switch back over to inch. All right, let's make that scallop toolpath. Again, we'll swap back out to a 1/2 inch ball end mill. Now, if I leave my tolerancing set very, very tightly inside of Fusion for thou, I've done videos on tolerancing and smoothing and all that. What that is saying is try to maintain 4/10 of what my model is, right? So what you're going to see is this will take just a few seconds. And there's a reason I picked scallop because scallop actually calculates very, very quick. But again, you have a million dots in here, right? Like every one of these dots is a change and a directional move, right? This part, just going on a limb, it's probably a sheet metal stamping die. It might be plastic injection molding. It's got a lot of room to play. I don't need to maintain 4/10 against the surface or what would actually be a triangulated mesh on this part. So I can actually speed up calculation. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D and duplicate by increasing my tolerance, right? So there's two sides of this, right? The higher your tolerance is, the looser you're allowing that toolpath to follow the model. So if I go from 4/10 to 4 thou, 10 times greater tolerance, does that mean my part is now plus or minus 4? No, technically it means we're within 4 thou of maintaining a lot of these surfaces. And what you're going to notice is, one, we need to change our step over to match. So give me 1 sec here. Go back. That was 20. And this should also... Nope. Let it recalculate. Come on. So, again, as you're seeing, we're seeing almost a reduction of 75%-ish. Now, again, we're not necessarily machining this part much looser than what it normally is. We're just allowing the tolerancing of the actual path being calculated to give it a little bit more lenience on how close it needs to be to the model, right? Now, smoothing is a little bit different than that. That being said, smoothing is now how much you're allowing those points to deviate even more, right? So I think a lot of people mistake this whole concept that smoothing is going to make everything perfect and smooth. It's not. What it's trying to do is kind of reduce points with with a tolerance, so that your tool path is now, again, if you have like two separate arcs, let's say they're coming into each other like an M shape, can it move that point to make one continuous arc, right? So again, if we add smoothing in, sometimes you get an even greater reduction in your tool path, and other times not so much, depending. So you could actually keep a very tight tolerance and then a looser smoothing. Notice how we've only got a reduction of another 0.2 here in data points. And again, you're not seeing a real fine or a real crazy adjustment, right? But if we take that other tool path, again, you guys are seeing me duplicate. And now at a much tighter tolerance, we went ahead and we added smoothing in again, and we could actually bump smoothing up a ways. What you're again going to notice is we, of course, are going to reduce our data points, but what really is going to start to happen is we're allowing that tool path much more lenience from point to point versus point on model, right? So even with a large amount of smoothing, we're not getting a ton of difference. And what's happening, like I said, is when we look at somewhere like these little lines in here, notice how we're finally getting a longer arc into a longer arc before we get back into a bunch of steps. When we look at the path we did prior to, that would tighten up where you would have more data points across it, right? What is the best settings for the GPU? All right. So me personally, on a visual standpoint of Fusion, your GPU doesn't mean all that much. And as you guys were kind of poking at, if you look at my system info here, is one, yes, I do have an i7 and it is a 14 gen, which is newer, but it's not top of the line, right? So again, I just got a killer deal, went 32 gigs of RAM. And then with that, if we look at my hard drive, I am just running a 4060. I'm not running anything crazy. Like, again, this is a $1,300 computer. I think normal price is about 15. Would I up my actual RAM? I think I'm going to here soon. And the only reason I'm going to do that is not because Fusion consumes so much RAM. It's because by the time you have your email, your Chrome, anything and everything else open, that's going to affect it. But inside of Fusion, the couple of changes, if you're on an older machine, that will help you is the ability to go in, and what we're going to look for is your actual, graphics setting. And now I change mine to better performance. I also use a 1080p display. I don't really care. I'm in machining. The look of the model having more ragged edges and lines like that is, in my opinion, I prefer better performance, right? The other one that I tend to recommend people would change is if you go to, where is it here? Did they move it on me? It's actually up here in general now that I think about it, is your graphics driver, right? So you have DirectX, Direct11, and then you have OpenGL. Now, I left mine on auto select. However, in the past, I've used by forcing DirectX 11 if yours has it, or if you're using more of a professional card, again, you're getting into the weird Quadro cards. Sometimes OpenGL will help you, but me personally, again, older machine, DirectX 9, again, based on your graphics setting, I tend to put mine to better performance. I could go better display. I don't think I'm going to see a difference, but again, I'm on a 1080p display. YouTube limits me to live streaming at 1080. There's no reason for me to get better. I will say, because I do have a laptop with a 1440 screen, when I look at that thing, it looks so beautiful to me. I can't, it's hard to go back to 1080. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of changes that I make there. I do, if you guys hadn't known, I go ahead and change my environment, of course, to River Rubicon. I keep it so that it's got this nice blue dark background versus the flashbang that I feel like when I open up with the white background. Any other questions outside of that from anybody and everybody? We have 5 minutes left. I can't believe you guys made me talk this whole time and stay. I know what I do need to do now, though, is my wife can't argue with the fact that somebody just bought me a ton of beer I got to go buy. Yeah, I mean, your Intel i9, I assume you probably got like a 4070 GPU in there. I would leave it on auto. I haven't had any problems. It didn't say it was beer. It's going to be beer, one way or another. Travis, I would say leave it on auto unless you're having, honestly, problems. And if you're having problems with your display, it's probably either, for most people, it's because they have a very old graphics card, which I would tell you to update your graphics drivers more than anything, right? Now you got me concerned there, Dylan. I'm going to go check to see. I mean, technically, that still classifies as beer. So you guys know, Dylan out there just said, great videos now and to come. But, I mean, I'm going to use that money for beer. That's what's going to happen. Ogden's right. Just throw money at the problem. You don't know money problems until you own a boat. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like on your older computers, guys, I would tell you for sure in your preference settings, setting your actual under general graphics driver, I've noticed a big difference going back to DirectX 9. It's helped a ton. $96 gigabytes of RAM, and how many gigabytes of RAM does Chrome eat? Chrome probably uses 92. The last 4 is for Windows. Which is funny, because if you, I've seen a lot of people argue about this, and it always makes me laugh, because as you guys can see right now, I'm pegged at 50, but most of it's going to Chrome for some reason. Visual Studio Code. I don't get it. And also, for a lot of you out there, I see a lot of people ask that question. I know I pulled up the specs of my system. Is you don't need to go out and buy the latest and greatest. Don't ever think that. Like, I tell all of my customers that, like, unless you're doing 5-axis all day, every day, you don't need to even get to this tier of machine, right? Like a good gaming laptop, and I suggest laptops so you can move around your shop, or a good gaming desktop that you could actually buy at Walmart. Now, I'm going to get hate for that comment. The reason why I tell you guys to buy one from Walmart is because when you break it by accident, you could just go buy another one, right? But a year from now, it's going to be obsolete anyways. Why put up the battle, right? I've always told people that it's not, you don't know your car's slow until you drive something faster. So for most of you, you're probably more than adequately okay. In my case, I'm streaming video while running Fusion and calculating toolpath, so I put a little extra money behind it. I also have to troubleshoot 5-axis toolpaths, which are always fun, and faster calculations always help. Any other questions for anybody out there before we close this out? I'm going to start my outro, and this is where you guys ask all the questions, right? So, as you guys know, oh, am I missing one? Oh, I did. What did I do? I must have got rid of that last title. How to support us, upcoming live streams. That's all right. Yeah, I mean, 100%. Travis is correct. He said that he used to use a Best Buy computer for a while until he really got into like big, heavy setups. Again, based on this part, guys, that I have in front of me, if this was something I'm doing all day, every day, sure, spend the $1,500 like I did, get something much more to the higher end of what's going on. But if you're not, you're really not going to notice. Like 4 or 5 second differences in toolpaths, it adds up over time, but it's not that detrimental. Again, if I was programming parts like this, as you guys saw, I would first things first is just crank up my actual smoothing setting or my tolerancing on my 3D toolpaths. And then when I get the path I like, I would go ahead and change it back to a little tighter settings, right? As always, guys, it's been a blast. Another free support Friday. I know Wednesday coming up, we have a workflow Wednesday that we are going to do live. I can't remember the topic. Do you guys know what topic was? The topic is going to be, I have 2 of them. I pre-scheduled them. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the one on the 15th. Let's see here. Yeah, so we're going to do setup sheets. So a lot of people have been asking us about doing setup sheets on Wednesday. So we are going to dive into setup sheets. A couple of cool things that you guys may or may not know. One including, you can actually, when you post your G code, it auto creates a setup sheet. nice thing to add in. But outside of that, as always, guys, have a great weekend. Best of time. I appreciate all the beers, the likes, the comments, the follows, and subscribe. And as always, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know Fusion Phil over here at jitcadcam. Have a good one.